Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Can It Take a K26, the show where we take a variety of dart blasters and see if they can be upgraded using a K26 spring. I am your host, Captain Xavier. In a previous season, I covered the majority of Nerf's clip system blasters. The irony of the clip system is, of course, they don't use clips, they actually use magazines. But there are a number of blasters out there that truly use what I would refer to as a clip. Some of them are actually Nerf, though I would say the majority of them are probably off-brand. And that's what we're going to focus on today, starting with the BuzzBee Toys Air Warrior JACUAR. It is a pistol with a 6-round built-in non-removable clip. It's top prime, and every time you prime it, it raises the clip up one, and you can then fire it. But what we want to know is, can it take a K26? Well, let's find out. Alright, well, the first thing we notice is that it is in fact direct plunger, which is good, because if it wasn't, there would be no hope at all. And let's take a look at the plunger tube. Not a wimpy spring, but let's see what we've got. Here's a nice little section of K26. About the right length. But it will not fit. So, no. But, what will fit? Well, whatever this is fits. Actually has a fairly robust catch mechanism. I'm actually very impressed with that. That could take a lot of weight if, you know, it would fit in the plunger tube. Okay, well, I was not able to put K26 in. The plunger tube is too small, but I was able to double up the spring, and probably a little bit more. The spring I put in was heavier than the stock spring, and I was able to increase the FPS by about 60%. It went from low 30s to low 50s, so still not, you know, a great blaster. There was never really much hope of this becoming a great blaster, but I didn't take the AR out, and I didn't fiddle with the barrels any. So getting an increase of 20 FPS is actually fairly impressive. So I was impressed. If you happen to pick one of these up at Goodwill and it's all you've got, you could throw an extra spring in and it wouldn't be absolutely horrible. Having 6 rounds on the front that you can top off as you go. That's kind of the nice thing about the clips, is you can just add more darts in and just push the clip back down, or, you know, move it to where it needs to be to feed. So that's kind of interesting. So, there you have it. On to the next contestant. Our next contestant in this clip episode of Can It Take a K26? The BuzzBee Air Warrior Cougar. This is an interesting little design. It also takes a proprietary clip, but this one is removable. I don't know if they made replacement clips for it. I would be kind of surprised if they did, but it does have a clip that can be removed, and it primes by pulling the stock, which is fascinating. And then, like all clip guns, the clip feeds out the top. You can push it back down, so hypothetically you could put more darts in the top as you went and just slam the clip back down and start over, or take it all the way out, reload it, and put it back in the bottom. Whichever you preferred. I think it's kind of a neat looking design, honestly. The priming handle being the stock is kind of weird, but other than that, it's not a horrible gun. Unlike many BuzzBee guns, it has a good-sized grip, which I rather like. I think with a paint job, this could look like a neat little pistol. So, let's find out if it can take a K26. The magazine well is a solid piece, and due to the fact that there's not actually many screws down here, I don't want to break it. So I'm going to see if I can get the plunger tube out the top without opening up the magazine well. Actually, it has it looks like a smaller spring than the JACUAR did. But the plunger tube is a little bit bigger, so it can, in fact, accommodate a K26. But it also has one of these BuzzBee hollow plunger tubes, which is what allows you to have the priming handle come back, and then when it locks, go back forward again, which does not speak well of the potential strength. But as I'm not overly attached to this particular blaster, Alright, well, rather surprisingly, yes, the Cougar can in fact take a K26. It did not even need to have a catch spring upgrade. It's catching just fine with the stock spring and the stock mechanism. The one thing that I ran into that was kind of fascinating is I ended up blowing the sides out of several darts. The thing has so much power and such a poorly designed clip that rather than expel the dart, it's blowing out the sides of the darts. To prevent this, you would need to take out all of the dart pegs and probably brass the barrels, or do something with the barrels to keep the sides from blowing out before it actually expels the darts. If nothing else, drilling out these very, very nasty BuzzBee dart pegs with their barbed heads would definitely be a good idea. I wouldn't try brassing the whole barrel. One, it would be a lot of brass. And two, I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't quite have the power to clear a fully brass barrel. But a partial brass barrel to at least improve the seal a little bit would probably help immensely. So, there you have it. It's chronoing in at, it averaged 76 after the upgrades. I forgot to get the averages before, but I'll bet anything they weren't 76. So, definitely an improvement, and also an improvement over the JACUAR, which was getting about 52. So, an additional 20 FPS above that. So, pretty impressive. So, let's move on to the next contestant. Our next contestant on the clip episode is the Adventure Force Havoc. This was sent to me by a fan, and he asked me to use it in an episode and then send it back, and I understand now why he wants it back. This thing is chronoing in stock anywhere between 75 and 105, depending on the darts, which is really, really impressive, actually, for a stock blaster. I'm looking forward to opening this up. It's, as I said, clip-fed. It's got a removable 8-round clip. It would be really cool if somebody came out with a longer one. And it primes using this flip-up priming handle. It's a lovely form factor. I mean, I like the handle. That's really neat. I like the pop-up priming handle. I don't like, of course, that it is very distinctly right-handed. So I probably would never use one of these myself. But it's a pretty little blaster. Let's find out if we can, in fact, upgrade it with K26. Alright. Well, another thing I'd like to say is that this thing is really fairly well built. It doesn't feel like the same cheap plastic that you see in BuzzBee guns. It's more like Nerf plastic. And the priming handle actually has a metal rod in it that is definitely making it thoroughly stout. And they made it so the priming handle screwed off. All in all, I am thoroughly impressed with the construction. I don't know what this little tab is for, but I suppose it's a nice little addition. Got a padded plunger tube, and it looks like the plunger head screws off, but you can also just thread it off. Well, K26 definitely fits. It's about the same length, but it is definitely a denser frequency. So there is the outside, there is the distinct chance that compression will prove to be an issue, as is not always, but quite often the case. Now, I am less worried about compression. I'm actually a lot more worried about this catch mechanism. I find it to be decidedly dubious, but we won't know until we put it back together. So, let's put it back together. Alright, now unlike the BuzzBee clips, this one does not have any kind of a dart peg, and the barrels are actually fairly uniformly tight the whole length, which is probably why they're getting such good performance. Now, if anything in this blaster is going to prevent it from being able to handle the K26, I believe it is going to be the priming connection. In general, I consider front prime to be an excellent feature of any gun, but when trying to K26 something, it often tends to be one of the weak points. Yep. As I feared. As I suspected, unfortunately, this mechanism, the priming mechanism, this bar and this linkage to the priming rod is entirely too weak. So many other parts of it are well reinforced, but this is definitely not. And it is also the feed mechanism for the clip itself, which is rather unfortunate and is resulting in the blaster not being able to prime with that much weight. And I kind of doubt it's going to be able to take much extra weight at all, but at the same time, it really doesn't need it. This thing hits 100 FPS stock with elite darts, not FVJs, not off-brand. These are just Doomland elite out-of-the-box darts, and they're a little chewed up, and this thing still hits 100 FPS. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and see what springs I have that might be a little bit of an upgrade, but I doubt any are really going to take, and as I said, it just doesn't need it. Alright, well, it cannot take a K26, but I was able to do a spring upgrade, which makes me happy because the stock form of this blaster was hitting approximately 100 FPS max, anywhere between 75 and 100 on a variety of darts, but it was getting 100 with elite darts. After modifications, it is hitting between 115 and 130 with elite darts. That's not even with good darts. That's just standard Nerf darts. So I am now thoroughly annoyed that this thing is so extremely right-handed. I'm tempted to get one and use it right-handed just on principle because I like the look of it. I like the power of it. I know the curator got one and he'll be excited to know how beautifully it can be upgraded. And the guy who sent it to me is definitely going to want it back, which is a tragedy. But these are still available in stores, so I'm definitely going to pick myself up one if I see it. So, on to the next and final contestant. The final blaster for this episode is, of course, the Battlescout ICS-10. 10 denoting how many rounds the clip holds, CS standing for clip system, which for once is actually accurate, and the I, I'm not entirely sure what the I stands for. My theory is that it's inline clip system, and I could be entirely wrong. But that to me kind of suggests that they were planning on having more guns with this clip, and I don't know if they actually still are, if the very poor reception that this got may have changed their mind, or if they're actually still going to do that. Who knows? But they never did come out with replacement clips for it, which was one of the downsides. This gun is rapidly replacing the Deploy as one of the most reviled guns that Nerf has produced, and I've never tried to use one in combat, so I really can't give a truly honest review, but I have talked to Brett, who has used it, and a couple of other people who have, and the general consensus is that it has a lot of flaws. The fact that it uses a proprietary clip that there are no replacements for is a problem. Really, the only way you can get one is to get one from people who had Battlescouts that they destroyed. I think Brett actually did that. He now has two. But it feeds in the side, which it's not an easy thing to feed. There's no flaring on the magwell, so it's kind of difficult to get it in a hurry. And there's no lock on it, so it can get bumped and simply fall out or get shifted to where there are no darts in it. It does mean that you can top off the magazine as you go and just slide it back down, but it also means that with enough force, it can actually just fall out. It is front pump, which is one thing I do like about just about any gun. The downside is it doesn't have slam fire, which is very unusual for modern front pumped Nerf guns. I mean, even the Guardian crossbow has slam fire. Everything going all the way back to the Alpha Trooper, as far as guns that had a front pump, were all pretty much slam fire, and this one doesn't. If you hold the trigger down and pump, all it does is feed the clip. It doesn't actually fire. It won't catch unless you have the finger off the trigger. So, a lot of downsides to this blaster, but what we want to know is, can it take a K26 in order to make it have decent ranges? Because in addition to all of those other downsides, this blaster has apparently poorer performance than N-Strike Elite, so it really doesn't even qualify as N-Strike Elite. It's part of the Modulus line, as you can tell by the color. So it doesn't necessarily claiming to be... But what we want to know is, can we put K26 in it? And the reason we really want to know is, in addition to all of the other downsides, the proprietary clip and the lack of slam fire and everything else, it actually has very poor performance. It has subpar N-Strike Elite performance. It has almost N-Strike level performance. It chronoed in at anywhere between 35 to max of 60 FPS, which is just not very good. So we're going to see what we can do to it to make it at least a little bit better. We're going to try to put K26 in it. If that doesn't work, we're going to see what we can put in it. So, screwdriver. Let's do this. One thing I did forget to mention in the defense of the Battlescout is that it does at least have a stock mount and a barrel mount, but I don't think I've ever seen anybody put a stock or a barrel on it, so who knows. Alright, let's go. Alright, that's a Guardian crossbow. That looks just like the internals of a Guardian crossbow. And the Guardian crossbow has slam fire, so why on earth doesn't this thing? I'm reasonably certain the Guardian crossbow does. Yeah, Guardian crossbow definitely has slam fire, so I have no idea why this one doesn't. I mean, I mechanically it clearly does not, but I don't know why they would do that. There is one slight advantage to that. One downside to slam fire blasters is the slam fire mechanism is decidedly fragile. The mechanism where the slam fire engages is it's weak, it's flimsy, it's not very strong, and so it will eventually crack and break and then your gun won't work at all. So the fact that this does not have slam fire but looks just like a Guardian crossbow makes me actually hopeful that we might be able to put a K26 in this. I mean, I'm almost certain it'll fit, and because it is definitely stronger, I think it might actually be able to hold it. So, the thing that I don't think, well, I take that all back. This mechanism, the front pump linkage, is almost certainly going to be the failing point, because that's what fails on the Havoc, and it's what failed on the Guardian crossbow. I mean, Guardian crossbow, you can put a K26 in it, but this link wasn't strong enough. But we're gonna give this one the benefit of the doubt. I've been told that I can go ahead and if it breaks, it's not the worst thing that will have ever happened. So yeah, this is very much just a Guardian crossbow's internals. Even as the place to mount the cylinder, it's got the little nub on the top that is where the string connected, so they're very much just recycling Guardian crossbow parts. Maybe they produced entirely too many of these and they needed to stick it in something, and this is what they came up with? I don't know. But that's what it is. There ain't no way that's going to be able to prime. Oh, but we're going to try it anyway. That I like. That is the most easily, singly removed barrel mount attachment I have yet seen. If any of you have destroyed your Battlescouts and don't want that attachment, do feel free to send me that piece. So unsurprisingly, the priming mechanism cannot support K26. The blaster can, but you can't prime it. Alright, well, after having the spring a little bit more than doubled, I couldn't tell you what the draw weight is, but the Battlescout is now coming in at between 80 and 100 FPS, which is, I believe, perfectly acceptable. It does require a good solid pump to get it to prime because of the extra spring. I think if I cut the long one in that I put a little bit further down, it might catch a little bit easier. But it does catch. You just have to make sure you pump it all the way. Usually that would be kind of annoying if you had a slam fire blaster, but this one doesn't, so it doesn't really matter. So, there you have it. No for the K26, yes for a spring upgrade to make it functional. Let's recap. Alright, for those of you keeping score at home or who just skipped to the end to see the results, that was a no to the BuzzBee JACUAR, but yes to a decent spring upgrade. That was a yes to the BuzzBee Cougar, but it definitely needs modification to the clip to make it more functional. That was a no to the Adventure Force Havoc, but yes to a spring upgrade, making it very functional. And that was a no to the Battlescout ICS-10, but yes to a spring upgrade, bringing it up to about elite level, maybe a little bit higher than elite level. So there you have it, clip blasters that can actually be made to be fairly decent if you really are interested in it. So, If you have any questions, comments, concerns, ideas, suggestions for future episodes, go ahead and put those in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching.